When I was a little kid, back in the 60s, early 70s, I used to run pizzas back and forth to Nick's from the pizzeria. They'd buzz us on the phone and tell us what kind of pizzas they wanted. Sometimes there were so many pizzas on a football weekend, I couldn't carry them down here. I had to make a couple of trips.
I hated that, absolutely hated it. I was so young, and we had to walk past what's the new room at Nick's now, but it was Rocky's. It was a pool hall, and it was kind of rough, and had to walk right past that and into Nick's, and all these older people, and they would say things I didn't even know what they meant to me, but I knew it wasn't nice. But I hated that part of working at Pizzaria.
For many years after we came here, you'd come down to Nick's, you'd have a good time, and if you were a woman, you'd go to the ladies' room, of course. And you would find women's urinals. Not a fun thing to deal with in this culture. So I used to talk to Dick, and he'd say, yeah. And I talked to him, and finally he decided he would go ahead and change to regular toilets. He threatened to bring the ladies' urinals to my house and plant flowers in the front lawn.
The graffiti in the men's room at Nick's is legendary. I mean, legendary. Don, would you agree?
Absolutely.
I mean, there is so many funny, social, political, obscene, sports directed. I mean, this goes back 60 years almost. There was one in 1964. Somebody had written in bold script, Goldwater 64. And like bold. And somebody, obviously very inebriated, toward the end of a night, like David and Goliath, had scrawled American Nothing underneath it.
People would talk across the country about the graffiti in the restrooms at Nick's. And when I worked there, toward the end of when I worked there, they started painting them on a regular basis. And I really complained about that because it was like art. It was like removing art.
There's a lot of pictures on the wall of Nick's people, or Nick's customers, employees, friends, wearing T-shirts all over the world. Dick Bishop, for example, says he was walking across London Bridge once and passed a guy with a Nick's T-shirt on, and they stopped and talked.
You'd think Tower Bridge isn't the end of the world, and it's not. But I'll tell you, I was standing on Red Square in 1983, and I had my Nick's sweatshirt on. And somebody came up to me in another tour group and said, God, that was I'm a law grad. I spent my whole career in that place. And I said, really, I still do. So.
Jack Oast, he was instrumental of the music at Nick's. Cafe Jazz Society, we certainly had a bunch of good jazz musicians. We really have.
I don't remember any other music at Nick's. Nick's may have had other music. I've heard that through the years. Another friend of mine said that they played here in the 50s, but can't prove it by me. It was traditional, mainstream jazz with a lot of emphasis on fun. And so that's the atmosphere we tried to create. And we ended up playing there for, I think it was 12 years in the summers. We'd play once a week.
Everything at Nick's is, you can attribute back to somebody else's idea. And so the guys at the bars decided, well, every time the Cubbies hit a home run, let's get a free beer, okay? And that's the way that one started. Then it kind of got out of hand. Plus, I think it was discriminatory too. Only bar patrons only.
I think the reason so many people in Southern Indiana are Cubs fans is because they were on TV every day. And at least 80 of those games were day games. So Nick's always featured the Cub game behind the front bar. Every Cub home run got a free beer for guys sitting at the bar. And that was a very popular thing because the Cubs hit a lot of home runs in those days. They gave up more, but they hit a lot.
The Nick's Bucket Brigade has evolved into a different thing that we had envisioned at the time. It got to be so popular, now we have a waiting list. We don't have room for people that want buckets hanging. The game Sink the Bismarck, and most kids don't even know what the Bismarck, it has nothing to do with the origin of the German battleship.
When they had the 1984 Olympic basketball team, I was night managing then. Chris Mullins, some of the guys wanted to come in for pizza. We had already closed. It was, I think, after midnight, or close to midnight. I said, sure. So we let them in and came upstairs, locked the front doors, came up here in the attic, and we made them pizzas and then some beers and stuff. And then the hump room had just opened like several years before that. So I gave them a marker and said, hey, why don't you autograph our wall? I mean, there's nothing up there. It was blank. And so they autographed the wall, and after that happened, the next month, thinking, man, I'm going to get fired. I said, that was pretty stupid. But Mo, the general manager at the time, thought it was really cool. Joe Klein, he was doing his best Bill Murray impression from Caddyshack. He's going, if the beer is cold, we'll win you gold.
When we do get famous people, there's a hallway that leads up to our hump room. We have them all go sign it.
That upstairs wall of fame, the lawyers, the sports people, actors, actresses, that the wall speaks for itself.
Yeah. Over the years, there's been Oscar Robertson, which the kids won't remember who he was, but Quinn Buckner, and, all the great basketball players that we've had. People would come to see Knight's practices. Like Henry Iba and Moose Scourin were two that I remember a lot.
Mark Cuban, he comes in whenever he's in town, and I believe he signed the wall. Yeah, it's just a really neat place to work and lots of history. You never know who you're going to see.
Thank you so much.
Senator.
Thank you, guys. How are you? Thanks. Good to see you guys. Thank you.
When did the ringing the bell tradition start with at Nick's?
I'm sure that started with my bartenders when a pretty girl walks through the front door. They ring the bell.
My theory on this is that the way Nick's works, you pretty much have to work the kitchen before you get to be a bartender. And the kitchen guys work hard here. And, obviously it's hot in there and everything. And my understanding is that when a guy got to be working behind the front bar, he was trying to take care of his poor buddies in the kitchen and give them a heads up when some good-looking women came in and were going to walk up the stairs. And it was much appreciated by the guys in the kitchen.